Hey, this is Pastor Bunjee Garrett, and I want to take some time today to present you with another word of encouragement. Well, just in case you haven't heard, you might like to know the United Nations Security Council, they just voted in support of President Trump's Gaza Peace Plan. Not only that, but they also approved a UN mandate to establish the International Stabilization Force, which is expected to be deployed there in the Gaza Strip. So yeah, we're watching history unfolding right before our very eyes as the UN Security Council officially endorses President Trump's 20-point peace plan. President Trump celebrated this decision on Truth Social by declaring this, and I quote him here, "Congratulations to the world on the incredible vote of the United Nations Security Council just moments ago, acknowledging and endorsing the Board of Peace, which will be chaired by me and include the most powerful and respected leaders throughout the world." That's right, President Trump is now the chairman of the board. He's the chairman on the UN's Board of Peace, and according to Chairman Trump, this is going to go down as one of the biggest approvals in the history of the United Nations and will lead to further peace all over the world and is a moment of true historic proportion. So yeah, the chairman of the Board of Peace has spoken, and he's promised that his 20-point peace plan is going to lead to peace all over the world. Now listen, I pray he's right. I hope that this 20-point peace plan results in peace in the Middle East and other areas of the world, and at the same time, I can't help but to remember something that Paul wrote in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. It's actually beginning at verse 1 where Paul declares, "Concerning the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I should write to you, for you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so comes as a thief in the night. For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape." So yeah, according to Paul here, the days that lead up to the second coming of Christ, this is going to be a time when leaders are promising peace and safety, but then sudden destruction comes upon them like labor pains upon a pregnant woman. And what this means then is that the promise of peace that Trump is presenting will probably be interrupted by the painful trials which will increase both in frequency and intensity. With that being the case, we should take some time to consider the 20-point peace plan that the UN Security Council just approved. Point number 1 reads in this way: Gaza will be a de-radicalized terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. Okay, so yeah, we're already off to a questionable start here. And the reason I say this is because the majority of those living in Gaza fully support Hamas. Case in point, let's consider a poll conducted by an independent nonprofit institution called the Palestinian Center for Policy and Survey Research. According to their poll from last year, more than 70% of the Palestinians, they believe that Hamas' decision to launch the October 7 attack was the right thing to do. Listen, only 7% of the Palestinians actually blame Hamas for the suffering that's happening there in Gaza. 64% blame Israel, and 20% blame the U.S. And in light of this data, we have to ask, how can the UN de-radicalize Gaza and make it a terror-free zone when more than 70% of the Palestinians there in Gaza believe that Hamas did the right thing when they attacked Israel? Well, points 2 through 8 have to do with hostage releases and humanitarian aid. And then we come to the 9th point of this plan, which appoints Trump to the position of leading this transitional government there in Gaza. And I want to consider how this is stated in this 20-point peace plan. It's point number 9 where we read, "Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people in Gaza. This committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts with oversight and supervision by a new international transitional body, the Board of Peace, which will be headed and chaired by President Donald J. Trump, with other members and heads of state to be announced, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair. This body will set the framework and handle the funding for the redevelopment of Gaza until such a time as the Palestinian Authority has completed its reform program." So yeah, this 9th point in Trump's 20-point peace plan places the Board of Peace over the transitional government there in Gaza. And while the stated goal of this regime change is to create modern and efficient governance that serves the people of Gaza, I remind you, more than 70% of the Palestinians living in Gaza, they like the way that Hamas was running things. And with this in mind, let's consider the 12th point in Trump's peace plan, which is stated in this way: no one will be forced to leave Gaza, and those who wish to leave will be free to do so and free to return. We will encourage people to stay and offer them the opportunity to build a better Gaza. Okay, so Trump wants to make Gaza great again, and this includes what seems to me to be a two-state solution. And yet I can't help but to remember that it was actually back in 2006 when the state of Israel completely disengaged from the Gaza Strip while continuing to provide Gaza with water, electricity, and other vital services. And in response to their kindness, the people in Gaza, they elected Hamas in 2007. And by 2008, the Gazan government launched their first attack on Israel. As a matter of fact, they not only launched the Gaza War of 2008, but then they again attacked Israel in 2012, and again in 2014, and again in 2021, and again in 2023. So according to one count, Palestinian terrorist groups have launched more than 20,000 rockets and mortars at Israel since Hamas took control of Gaza back in 2007. Well, now Trump is encouraging the very same people who have been fighting this war against Israel to stay in Gaza so that we can make Gaza great again. Now, to be fair to Chairman Trump's plan, I want to consider the 13th point, which is stated in this way: Hamas and other factions agree to not have any role in the governance of Gaza, directly, indirectly, or in any form. All military, terror, and offensive infrastructure, including tunnels and weapon production facilities, will be destroyed and not rebuilt. There will be a process of demilitarization of Gaza under the supervision of independent monitors, which will include placing weapons permanently beyond use through an agreed process of decommissioning and supported by an internationally funded buyback and reintegration program, all verified by the independent monitors. New Gaza will be fully committed to building a prosperous economy and to peaceful coexistence with their neighbors. That's right, this plan forbids Hamas and the other, terrorist factions from using any weapons or being involved in the government, and to step aside to allow the new Gazan government to lead the way into the future. The 14th point presents a guarantee that this plan will bring peace, and here's how it's stated in the peace plan, and I quote: a guarantee will be provided by regional partners to ensure that Hamas and the factions comply with their obligations, and that new Gaza poses no threat to its neighbors or its people. Well, there you have it, folks. Point 14 guarantees us that Hamas and the other terrorist factions will comply with all of these obligations. So this is a guarantee, despite the fact that Hamas has sworn time and time again that they're going to wipe Israel from the map. Chairman Trump has also promised that Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza. As a matter of fact, it's in the 16th point of this peace plan where we read, Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza. As the ISF establishes control and stability, the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, will withdraw based on standards, milestones, and timeframes linked to demilitarization that will be agreed upon between the IDF, ISF, the guarantors, and the United States, with the objective of a secure Gaza that no longer poses a threat to Israel, Egypt, or its citizens. Practically, the IDF will progressively hand over the Gaza territory it occupies to the ISF according to an agreement that they will make with the Transitional Authority until they are withdrawn completely from Gaza, save for a security perimeter presence that will remain until Gaza is properly secure from any resurgent terror threat. So that's right here. Trump's peace plan is effectively another name for the two-state solution. Therefore, we shouldn't be surprised by the interfaith aspect of this plan. And I want to consider the last 3 points on this plan, beginning with the 18th point, which reads in this way, and I quote, an interfaith dialogue process will be established based on the values of tolerance and peaceful coexistence to try and change mindsets and narratives of Palestinians and Israelis by emphasizing the benefits that can be derived from peace. So Chairman Trump has a plan to change the religious mindset and narratives of the Arab Muslims who call themselves Palestinians, those who have been attacking Israel, since 1948. I wonder how this is all going to work out. Well, the 19th point, we find Trump referring to a two-state solution by referring to, and I quote, a credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood, which we recognize as the aspiration of the Palestinian people. That's right, Chairman Trump is determined to establish a Palestinian statehood, or a two-state solution. And yeah, this is despite the fact that the true and living God has already warned us that he's going to destroy those who divide up the land of promise. In the 20th point of this 20-point peace plan, well, we find Chairman Trump committing the USA to this plan, and here's how he put it, and I quote, the United States will establish a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinians to agree on a political horizon for peaceful and prosperous coexistence. That's right, Trump is all about the coexistence, and he's committing the United States so that we are now on the hook for this goal of establishing a two-state solution. With that being the case, I encourage you to realize that the Lord God of Israel, he's already revealed that this promise of peace and safety, it's going to result in sudden destruction. And with that being the case, I encourage every Christian to realize that we're quickly entering into a time when the labor pains of the end times will begin to unfold. And with that being the case, we have to be looking for every opportunity to lead the lost to the cross of Christ so that they might trust in Jesus and be saved before it's too late. And with this as the goal, let's walk in the power of the Holy Spirit as we continue to fight the good fight of faith, and all for the glory of God.